another comment on suicide bombers. And we look at suicide bombers as something really, really negative and bad and horrible. Again, this comment is coming from a video that I made on Parallel Worlds. Now, as a suicide bomber clearly is living in a negative, everything's bad, everything's horrible reality. All potentials, all beliefs are going to be viewed and experienced 100% from that negative perspective in that parallel world of his experience. But are you doing the same thing? If you see a suicide bomber as being negative and horrible and must be stopped, and then you are living in that same parallel world as the suicide bomber. If you judge him to be negative in any way, shape, or form, if you choose to hate a suicide bomber, you're just in the same world as him, and you can't even see yourself getting out of it. Now, if you choose to live your life from a loving perspective, in that parallel world of potentials, then you can understand with love what a suicide bomber is doing. Now, you got to understand, and I don't see any side of war as being right or wrong. I just am seeing everything from the loving perspective and saying, okay, what's really going on here? So, in order to say what's really going on, it may seem a little offensive, but the United States has not really recognized what it is that they're doing. I mean, let's face it, they're freaking broke. They can't afford to even feed half the people that are in that country. Well, not half, but there's a number of people that are going homeless. A lot of homeless people, a lot of people on drugs. There's a reason why they're on drugs. Mostly the government wants them to be on drugs. A lot of people dying in that country. They've been dying for an awful long time. And why? Because they're putting all of their money into war. Like they've got, they're all saying our economy is going to crash. It's like, well, where are you coming up with the money to buy another bomb? Where are you coming up with the money to, pay a soldier to be a soldier and kill another human being? I mean, clearly you're not as broke as you're talking about. You're just broke. You're just choosing not to look after your country in a loving way. No, you are focused on, let's go kill somebody. And you'll find the money to kill somebody, but you won't find the money to help somebody live. So you got to kind of look at, for a long, long, long time, the US, love ya, not saying anything bad about you, but you got to sort of see what direction you guys have been going in. And a lot of it's been propaganda. You've been believing some shit that says, yeah, all our money needs to go into killing people. But the US has been acting like suicide bombers in every friggin' country. Every third world country has been created because of the United States. I mean, and you don't know what you're doing. There's some leader there that's keeping you in the dark about the friggin' slavery that they create, because we can't have our slaves educated. Otherwise, you won't be very good slaves. You won't be voting, you won't be supporting the kind of politicians that you support if you actually find out the truth of the game. But you're in your own country and you're getting your own information, so you're going to believe that you are the one that's right. But I mean, if you see anybody attacking the U.S., why would anybody want to attack somebody that's so peaceful and loving? Maybe it's because you threw the first bomb. And anybody that's on, first of all sides of war think that they're right. While all sides of war think that they're right, they'll never see where they're wrong. They're stuck in that parallel world of hate, hate, hate. And the war goes on and on and on. Nobody's a winner, everybody's dying. And the comment that I'm responding to was about suicide bombers. Put yourself in the mind of a suicide bomber. What would really make him want to use himself to kill other people? Do you think that there's not a driving force? Do you think that something in his reality got him so pissed off? What would make you, that is the best way of doing it, is when you put yourself in their shoes, and don't see as them as being anything different than you. They are identical to you in every way, shape, or form. So put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, what would make me do that? What would drive me to be a suicide bomber? Just kind of reflect that. And really truly put yourself in that guy's shoes to understand where he's coming from. It's not about, hey, life is wonderful, I think I'm going to go kill a few people. No. For me, what would it take me to be a suicide bomber? If you torture my children, if you give me absolutely no direction, if you trap me and there's absolutely no way out, and you are torturing my family, you are preventing me from eating, you are raping my daughters. I mean, if you are doing the absolute worst possible thing to everything that I love, that would kind of drive me crazy. That would kind of make me want to kill you. That would make me want to say, here, I'm going to blow up all your people so that you kind of pay attention to something you're doing is wrong. That game doesn't really work because it's sort of like failure to communicate. Because we're stuck in that anger. One has one bomb, then the other guy has another bomb, and we think that we're going to learn something from our bombs. It's like, if I bomb you enough, you'll get my message and you'll stop doing what it is you're doing. For the most part, you have to kind of realize where the wealth is. And the wealth for the most part has been in the American dream. And Canada is part of the Americas, so I'm not excluding Canada by any means. It's really odd that Canada's economic system are kind of not doing too well. Or they're kind of doing well. Sorry about that, but I'm living in a country where everybody thinks that everything is really peachy keen. Yes, a few people are waking up and a few people are suffering, but for the majority, a lot of people still have their jobs. A lot of people are still making money. They may not like paying their income tax. That is, kind of upsetting. They all have complaints, but they're still got their jobs. And as long as they got their jobs, they're going to be happy and not see what the big problem is and why. We all want our cheaper stuff. So in order to get our cheaper stuff, we got to make a third world country. We got to get somebody living in so much poverty for so many hundreds of years that when we throw them the possibility of, hey, make our stuff for us and make it for us cheap. So then they make it for us cheap, so that, because we want to buy our stuff cheap. The more we're paying taxes, the more we're paying, these big wealthy guys, to be wealthy, we can't afford to buy our stuff. We can't afford to buy our food. We can't, afford to buy our cars or our clothes. So we get slaves in other countries, third world countries, to do it for us. It takes a little bit of time to make somebody work for nothing. You got to kind of deprive that country and take away all of their ability to survive so that we can throw them a carrot that says, oh, I'll follow you. I need to eat. So anybody that is at war with the U.S., trust without a doubt you threw the first bomb. If you just look at yourself from that perspective, you are the slave masters and the slaves are getting a little upset with you. And that's what causes a suicide bomber. And it's like, don't judge a man until you walk a mile in his shoes. From a loving perspective, then you can see the other side, the mentality of war. And then you try and stop. Try and see that by you thinking a suicide bomber is so wrong, you're agreeing that raping his children, doing harm, torturing, cutting the arms off his children, raping a 3-year-old child, part of his family member, is a good thing. So if you're going to hate suicide bombers, hate the actions that you do that creates a suicide bomber, because basically all they're trying to do is get you to wake up, get you to see, Yeah, they're stuck in negative. They're stuck in um, that parallel world of everything is negative. They're stuck in their hates, and all of their actions, all of their potentials, all of the ways they're going to communicate are going to communicate in a non-effective way because it's so friggin' negative. It doesn't work. It's no solutions in a negative way. But if you can jump into the loving perspective, you can see that it's a communication. We're trying to communicate with our bombs. We're trying to communicate with our weapons. We're trying to communicate by killing each other, where it's just all friggin' communication. It's all just understanding. Understand your perspective, understand their perspective, and try to find a way of communicating with each other so that we aren't doing harm to anybody. We need to be throwing a few love bombs. We need to be throwing a few understanding bombs. We need to throw a few, hey, I'm wrong, please forgive me, can I do something better? Bombs. Like, can we throw different types of bombs that have the same effect? Could be wrong, but it's just amazing what you see when you see it from a loving perspective. The whole universe changes. If you really really hate the new world order and you hate these elites, put yourself in their shoes and try and understand where they're coming from, because we are not communicating with them and they are not communicating with us, and killing and wars has never worked in the past, and we need to wake up. So you need to see this new world order. You need to see these elites by putting yourself in their shoes. Because you know what? Most of us are in their shoes. Most of us are chasing that almighty buck. Most of us are trying to get that wealth. You know, Anybody who's hating the new world order, it's like, are you wanting a car? Are like if I said, hey, you can win a lottery, what would you buy? Would you buy a car? Would you want $1 million? Like, what would you do with that $1 million? I mean, anybody that is hating the new world order, are you after the almighty buck too? Is anything that you wish, want, and desire have anything to do with the same kind of stuff that they enjoy? Aren't you just pissed off because they have the stuff that you want? And then isn't the whole game about stuff? You know, put yourself in their shoes in order to figure out how to communicate with them. And you don't necessarily have to communicate in the same room as them. We do have scalar waves, we have thought waves, we do have an energy that we put out into the world, and it will have an effect to change the world if you see it from a different perspective. Just a thought. Peace out.